Varsity Life, presented by Ulucci Sports Medicine and Physical Therapy. Call today and get better tomorrow.
Hi everyone, I'm Frank Carpano. Welcome to Varsity Life. We are live each and every Monday night at 7:30 here on Cox Sports Television. We're also streamed live on the internet at turnto10.com. Tonight on Varsity Life, we'll sit and chat with a man who went from being on top of the world to penniless. Now he's telling his story in a brand new book, and tonight here on Varsity Life. Then we'll introduce you to a young man who was given some devastating health news earlier this year, but he is now well down the road to recovery. We'll check out our Game of the Week. It features one of the best boys lacrosse squads in the state. And of course, we'll bring you the top 5 plays of the week. All that and more tonight on Varsity Life. We begin tonight with a young man who had it all when he was in high school, an incredible talent, adoring fans, and a limitless basketball future. But it all came crashing down for Fall River's Chris Herren. And after many years of drug abuse and legal problems, he sets a new path for himself. Chris, along with the Providence Journal's Bill Reynolds, have gotten together and produced Basketball Junkie, a memoir, a book that is now out. It's a fascinating story, one that many of our viewers have probably followed through the ups and the downs. Varsity Life welcomes Chris Herren and Bill Reynolds. How are you, gentlemen? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. I think the last time I saw you was on a basketball court along the way, whether it was in the pros or college or high school.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder, and the first question is to you, would people who know you best think that getting together to write a book is a bit out of character for you?
I don't think so. I think once people, especially the people who know me and know the relationship that Billy and I have, definitely could see it happening.
But to share that with everyone?
To share that with I shared this with everyone because there's a bigger message to it. It's not about Chris Herren. It's about people who are, you know, struggling in substance abuse and people who are living in that lonely, dark place of guilt and shame. That's why I came out with this.
Well, I wondered, is it a story about basketball or about addiction?
It's about both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about both. You know, I like to think that, you know, in the introduction it said, you know, who once had it all. I think I have a lot more today than I ever did back then, you know, so life's good, and I did this. The response from this book has been amazingly positive. The emails that I have received have made this book well worth it. If it stopped selling books tomorrow, it would be all good.
Billy, you wrote a book about the Durfee High School basketball team, Fall River Dreams, so you were familiar with Durfee, familiar with Fall River, and familiar with Chris. What was it about his story that made you want to get together with him to produce this book?
Well, it's funny. People ask me how long it took to write this book, and the quick, easy little flip answer is it took 3 or 4 months, but it really took 15 years, 16 years. Because when I met Chris, he was a junior in high school, and from the beginning, you couldn't make up his story. And as a writer, it was like watching this amazing story unfold in front of your eyes, and that was just his high school experience. And the amazing thing is nobody, Frank, could have made up Chris Herren's life in the last 15, 16, 17 years. I mean, and so writing it, for me, it was easy. The difficult thing, I think, was for Chris to be able to tell his story, because it's an amazing story. And you could have put 10 scriptwriters in a room and had them bounce thoughts off each other for months and months, and you couldn't come up with this story.
The book begins in 2008, not the story, but the book begins in 2008 with the sentence, "I was dead for 30 seconds." That grabbed my attention. I'm sure that day grabbed your attention. Could you tell us about that day that produced that sentence for the book?
That day was one of my last days out there, you know, using under the influence of drugs and alcohol. It wasn't my last, but it was one of. You know, it was just another day for me. You know, that I had been in those situations before, overdoses and in bad situations. But that day was the day that started the process of me getting healthy. So I was dead for 30 seconds on the way to Charlton Memorial Hospital in handcuffs, you know, saying, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Billy, you know, we talk about the Durfee High School basketball program when Chris was there, and even before Chris was there. It was meant so much to the community. Can you describe what the basketball program meant to the city of Fall River?
Yeah, that's what got me there in the first place, Frank, to do the book. It was one of the last places in the Northeast where high school basketball was vitally important. And it was, I mean, the kids on Chris's team and Chris himself, they knew who played in 1947. They knew all the Durfee stars. There was a tremendous sense of community to it. And it was that sense of community that had been lost in so many other places. So that was the impetus that got me there in the first place. And originally it was to follow the coach, Skip Karam, who had been there for 35 years. And so my premise is take an old veteran coach through a changing America. And Chris is on the team. And any other year, I would have probably got a kid who might have gone on to play at UMass Dartmouth. Mm-hmm. That's the reality of it. And Chris goes on to play for the Boston Celtics. So from the beginning, I knew that there was an amazing set of circumstances going on. One of the first days, Skip Karam says to me, he pulls me over, he says, I don't know if I can do it this year. I said, what are you talking about, Skip? He says, Christy's driving me crazy. And so I go, yeah, I can understand that. And 2 minutes later, Chris says to me, I don't know if I can do this. Mr. Karam's driving me crazy. So right away, I knew there was a theme here. So that became kind of the theme of the book. Is he going to be able to transcend like Fall River and transcend all the expectations? And that was the start of it.
So much more of the story to talk about, and we will right after this break.